In the aftermath of World War I, Germany was in shambles. It was forced to give up territory, scale down its military, and pay huge fines out of its shrinking national budget. But despite all odds, Germany rebuilt its military into something so shockingly powerful, it would drag almost all of Europe into a Second World War. How did they do it? The panzers, the aircraft, the dreaded submarines, and the lightning-fast tactics Nazi Germany was known for were all thanks to a secret deal with an ally no one would ever expect. Under the Treaty of Versailles in June 1919, Germany agreed to pay reparations for the war. This was a tough blow for their already sinking economy and angered citizens who did not want Germany to surrender in the first place. In addition, the treaty required Germany to give up parts of its territory. Its army was limited to only 100,000 soldiers, with no aircraft, tanks, or heavily armed vehicles allowed. The League of Nations even sent inspectors to remain in the country and ensure that the Germans would abide by the treaty. With a crippled economy, political instability, and demilitarization program in place, it seemed there was no way that Germany would ever reach its former military glory. But the League of Nations failed to keep an eye on another superpower that had also been greatly affected by the war: Russia. Germany and Russia were enemies during World War I, allies after the war, then enemies again during World War II. In the time between, the two nations connived to create armies powered by advanced technology and superior strategies that would take the rest of the world by surprise. As Germany went through a post-war social upheaval, Russia was also undergoing its own period of social transformation. A civil war changed the Russian government from a weakened monarchy to a provisional republican government. Different parties clashed for power, and there was much civil unrest. Left-wing factions overthrew the government, creating the Red Army and establishing a socialist state. Together with countries like Belarus and Ukraine that had broken free from the Russian Empire to join them, they formed the United Soviet Socialist Republic. Like Germany, the USSR also felt threatened by the Allied powers. As the saying goes, the enemy of your enemy is your friend, and the two nations signed a pact of friendship in 1922. Even with this treaty, Russia and Germany weren't exactly the closest of friends. The Nazi doctrine was anti-communist, and Russia was still suffering from the damages caused by Germany during World War I. But the two nations set aside their differences to achieve their goal of rebuilding their military so no Western power could ever threaten them again. Of the two, Germany had superior technology and many top-notch scientists and engineers. Meanwhile, Russia had vast stretches of land and natural resources, but its war tactics and equipment were outdated. They agreed that Germany would build factories in Russia to develop high-caliber weapons and military vehicles, ranging from aircraft to poison gas. In turn, Germany would sell weapon designs and share military expertise with Russia. This was a top-secret deal that was not included in the official treaty. None of the Allied nations would ever find out until it was too late. Things heated up when the Great Depression hit. Inflation sent food prices soaring, unemployment skyrocketed, and the people were frustrated with their government. The National Socialist Party, better known as the Nazis, saw their chance to rise to power. Hitler was appointed chancellor, and he wasted no time getting Germany under his control. To solve the issues of unemployment, he cranked up military production. All their budget and available workers were focused on building vehicles to use in the upcoming war. To keep the Allies from suspecting what was going on, Germany used code names for operations and claimed the fighter planes and tanks were merely civilian aircraft and tractors. Germany struck a deal with top civilian aircraft manufacturers to develop advanced fighter plane and bomber designs in Russia. It also set up a secret pilot training base south of Moscow. In addition to planes, Germany invested heavily on armored tanks. Besides the aircraft, having the fastest, most maneuverable tanks would be the keys to victory. Of course, Germany also fulfilled its part of the deal. Soviet generals were included in military exercises and tank test runs as the Germans developed the Blitzkrieg, or lightning war attack. Russia also sent some of its soldiers to Germany for training, since although the Treaty of Versailles imposed limitations on Germany's military force, training foreign soldiers was not restricted. This went on for 8 years. Still, the alliance was tentative at best. Despite its assurances of mutual friendship, Germany was secretly plotting to include Russia among its conquests. Every year, some German soldiers would be sent to Russia to train, pretending to be civilians retired from the military. After finishing the training, they would return to the German army, and the next batch would be sent in. The best trained soldiers formed the core group of Hitler's generals. Besides increasing war production and training, the Nazi Party also waged a propaganda campaign, emphasizing absolute obedience and physical exercise. These were qualities that would make a fine soldier, and through a combination of brainwashing and fear of the government, Hitler and his underlings cranked out paramilitary organizations that were able to fight when the time called for it. In 1930, the Inter-Allied Military Control reported that Germany had finally demilitarized. It was time for them to leave the country, or so they thought. They had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. With no one to keep Hitler's world domination schemes in check, Germany ushered in a terrifying age of military modernization that the Treaty of Versailles had been trying so hard to prevent. By that time, Germany no longer needed Russia, and in 1932, they ended their 13-year deal. Even with all these preparations, when Germany launched World War II, the Allied powers were still stronger in terms of military size and number of military vehicles. But several factors worked in Germany's favor. First, the Allies were not expecting war. World War I was supposed to be the war to end all wars, and they banked on the League of Nations to keep their hard-won peace through diplomacy. Even when Germany started annexing Austria, Czechoslovakia, and nearby countries, the leaders preferred to give up territory instead of confronting Hitler, hoping a bit of extra land would be enough to appease Germany. But it wasn't. Second, they never anticipated the speed of Germany's new Blitzkrieg, or lightning war tactics. The German strategy was to exploit a weak point in a nation's defenses and send columns of tanks in that direction that would fan out while the main columns kept steadily advancing until they broke through the defense lines. All the while, they would be supported by bombers and fighter planes. By attacking from behind defensive lines, any country they invaded would not stand a chance. Third, the other European countries did not have updated military strategies. World War I was fought mainly in the trenches, but this time around, the Germans brought paratroopers that could infiltrate enemy lines and tank battalions that could travel over 100 miles in one day. Before their enemy could mobilize a counterattack, it was too late. Fourth, the other countries were busy dealing with internal struggles at that time. The Great Depression had crippled their economies. Even with superior numbers of soldiers, they had little budget for the military, and internal politics put unfit leaders in command positions. The colonies in Africa and Asia were starting to fight for independence, and their own governments were struggling with low morale and widespread civilian unrest. Fifth, it wasn't just Germany attacking. The Soviets went after Finland and half of Poland, while the Japanese were on a massacre spree in China. With all these factors combined, from Germany's superior tactics and secret deals with Russia to the Allied powers' lack of preparation and misplaced faith in diplomacy, it's no wonder that most of Europe was quickly within Nazi control during the opening salvo of the Second World War.